oh my gosh, I cannot even tell you how much I miss you guys. In fact, I am wearing my student shirt even though it's not First Wednesday, and I'm pretty sure that some of these stains you see are permanent because I put it through the dryer. But I like to wear it because it reminds me of what we usually get to do. We usually get to see each other. It reminds me of normal and being here and being together and going to small group and all the things that I'm missing right now, and you're probably missing too. And it gets even a little harder when we hear about stuff opening up and other friends are going to their church, or maybe they're getting to see their buddies, and we want to do that. But we also need to do what's right. And it's hard to know what the next right thing is sometimes, right? It's hard for me. I really wish that it was super easy. Like maybe a buzzer goes off in your head when you think the right thought about something you're trying to decide. Or like with this stuff, the quarantine, there's one website, one news report, one report that tells everyone all the same thing, and we know exactly what we're supposed to do. It's like a big arrow on a roadmap. You go here. That doesn't happen very often, if ever, for me. I don't know about you guys, but I don't often in hard situations know exactly the right thing to do. And maybe you have situations like that too. Maybe you've been in a class and one of the people that you really like sitting by and hanging out with one day just starts railing on the teacher, who for a teacher is actually a pretty nice person and you kind of like. But they just say, oh, she hates me. Oh my gosh, this class sucks. You know what? I am failing and it is completely their fault. They're a bad teacher. They hate me. They're picking on me. And you want to kind of keep that classroom buddy, but at the same time, you know, they're terrible in class. They never participate. They rarely turn in their assignments and they never study. What's the right thing to do? Maybe this is a weird time for you at home, and normally you would have limits on how much you're on your computer, how much gaming you can do, how many Netflix shows you can actually binge in a day or a week or a month at this point. Like you have parameters and rules that you know you're supposed to follow. And normally your parents are pretty good about, hey, 30 more minutes and then we need to, put the phone away, whatever your rules are. But right now, maybe your parents are working and you're at home by yourself with your siblings or yourself. Maybe you, have a parent who is working at home and also trying to help your siblings with homework, and you're kind of left on your own. Maybe just everyone's distracted because our new normal is really weird right now. Whatever it is, no one's really paying attention to how much you're doing online or on gaming or on your phone, even though you know when it's time for you to get off those things. You know your rules. What's the right thing to do? Maybe you have a great friend and you love this friend and you can't imagine not having this friend in your life. But lately, they've been doing some stuff you don't agree with. Maybe they're even doing some stuff that annoys you or hurts you. And it's not like little stuff. It's stuff that you hang on to, but you don't say anything because you know this friend too likes drama a little bit too much. And if you do say something, you might not have that friend anymore. They might talk to you about other people. You're going to lose something. Right? That's when it's hard. That's when it's hard to know what to do because it might cost us something. If you follow the rules your parents have for your screen time and phone, you're going to lose time on your device and your games, and maybe you're going to lose your win streak, or you're not going to get to watch that last episode of Gossip Girl. You're going to lose something. You know you need to confront that friend, but you don't want to end up alone. You don't want to lose that friend or maybe even that friend group, even though you know something needs to happen. Sometimes what's right feels complicated. And sometimes it can just be really hard to actually do it. That's what we started last week, this new series, right? What to do when you don't know what to do. So when you think about Tammy last week, she introduced you to this story. She started about Joseph. And when we left off with Joseph, he was not having a great day. Joseph was sold into slavery. So we know that happened. And what we're going to do is we're going to pick up and see what happens to Joseph afterwards. But here's the thing. He actually ended up with a pretty good job. He ended up at a house of a man named Potiphar. So Potiphar was a really high official, an important guy to the Pharaoh. What he says goes, right? End, period, no cap. That's it. Pharaoh's word was law, right? And Joseph, he had some anxiety. he was a little nervous because he didn't know what he was walking into. Here's what the Bible tells us happened. This is Genesis 39, 2-6. The Lord was with Joseph so that he prospered. He did good. God blessed him. That's what that means. And he lived in the house of his Egyptian master. When his master saw that the Lord was with him and that the Lord gave him success in everything he did, Joseph found favor in his eyes and became his attendant. So Potiphar was like, this dude is blessed by the Lord. I'm going to keep him close to me. An attendant meant that he was like a personal servant to him, right? So Potiphar put him in charge of his household, and he entrusted to his care everything he owned. From the time he put him in charge of the household and all that he owned, the Lord blessed the household of the Egyptian because of Joseph. So now God's not just with Joseph, he's blessing Potiphar through Joseph. This is a big deal. God is really showing up. The blessing of the Lord was on everything Potiphar had, both in the house and in the field. So Potiphar left everything in Joseph's care, and with Joseph in charge, he did not concern himself with anything except the food he ate. Basically, things were pretty good for Joseph, right? Potiphar trusted him. He gave him a really important job, and he got to have a lot of freedom in what he did. And that means also things were good for Potiphar, because with Joseph in charge, he was blessed in his home, in his fields, in everything he owned. The Lord was blessing him because he put Joseph in charge of it. Dude was only worried about what he was having for lunch. When's the last time that was your last worry? Okay, maybe lately a lot. But that's a big deal for somebody who's an important official. All he had to worry about was what he was having for dinner. Nothing else. None of all his fields or anything. That's pretty cool, and it sounds like a really neat story. Except if this was a movie, right now would be the time where the really ominous music starts up and maybe the lighting changes a little bit, because it's about to get really weird. Check out the next part. This is Genesis 39, 6 and 7. Now Joseph was well built and handsome. Okay. And after a while, his master's wife took notice of Joseph and said, come to bed with me. Okay, two things. Apparently Joseph was kind of a hottie, and apparently his wife, his boss's wife, she noticed. So would you say it was getting a little complicated for Joseph? What does he do? You got to remember, even though Joseph was trusted with all those things, even though Joseph was given free rein to run everything Potiphar had, he was still a slave. And that meant he had to do whatever Potiphar told him. And as his boss, whatever Potiphar's wife told him. But how could he do that? How could he do what she was asking? It didn't feel right to do that to Potiphar, and it didn't feel right to do that to God. But at the same time, if he disobeyed as a slave, he could lose his home that he lived in. He could lose his great job. He could lose his life. It was complicated, right? Not an easy choice. So what did Joseph do? Well, let's check out what it says. Genesis 39, 8 through 10. But he refused. With me in charge, he told her, my master doesn't concern himself with anything in this house. Everything he owns, he has entrusted to my care. No one is greater in this house than I am. My master has withheld nothing from me except you, because you are his wife. How could I do such a thing and sin against God? And though she spoke to Joseph, Potiphar's wife again, day after day. So like this would be full on stalker status. In the DMs, writing your friends, stalking your Insta. That's what she's doing to Joseph day after day. He refused to go to bed with her or even be with her. He took a stand, right? He did that next right thing. He did it out of respect for Potiphar, and he did it out of this even bigger respect that he had for God. Joseph just did the next right thing. He didn't make his decision based on things that might happen to him because he didn't know, but he just did what he knew was the right thing to do. And he was right. In that moment, the right thing to do was turning down Potiphar's wife. That would have been a terrible mistake. It was complicated. It was challenging. He didn't know the outcome of either decision, but he knew he had to do what was right, and he had to trust God with the outcome. And so he did. And listen, he made the right choice. And it wasn't like his life was better or easier because he made the right choice. It actually got worse because Potiphar's wife, she didn't like that rejection. And so she actually accused him of doing to her what she was begging him to do. And unfortunately, Potiphar believed his wife. So Joseph went to prison. That doesn't sound like something you would hope would happen by doing the right thing, right? But remember, Joseph didn't make his decision based on what it meant for him. He made his decision on what was right, and he trusted God with the rest of it. The outcome wasn't great, wasn't probably what he hoped for, but there's this word that I want you to know, and it changes everything when it comes to making hard decisions. Ready? The word is integrity. You've probably heard that before. It's on a lot of motivational posters, right? You see it. What does it mean? Integrity means being the kind of person who does what's right regardless of the outcome or who is around. That means you make the right choice whether someone's watching you or not. You make the right choice whether it's hard or it might cost you or not. Because sometimes doing the right thing is going to get you a lot of applause and kudos, and sometimes it won't. Sometimes doing the right thing is going to cost you something that you don't want to lose. And sometimes it might help you gain something you never knew you needed. Sometimes doing the right thing is going to make you look good and brave and so smart. And sometimes it's going to make you look stupid. We don't get to decide how things turn out, but we do get to decide what kind of person we want to be. And if we decide to have integrity, and yeah, it's going to be hard, but we're also going to have less regrets and more respect for ourselves. We're going to be closer to God by choosing to trust Him with the outcomes that we can't see. And the more we practice it, the more we do the right thing, even when it's hard, the easier it gets, even in hard situations. Because here's the deal. Most of us are not going to be in a situation like Joseph. I mean, I really, really hope none of us are in a situation like Joseph. But we are going to have hard things. And it's fear that keeps us from making those hard choices a lot of times. It's fear of the loss, of looking stupid, of being dumb. And sometimes fear looks like doing nothing at all. Anybody just ignored a hard decision and hoped that you didn't have to deal with it? I have. Never turns out really great. So don't do that. Make that next hard decision. Have integrity. And the thing is, you don't have to do that alone. You have small group leaders and pastors and friends and parents and aunts and uncles and grandparents and great friends who want to be there with you. So tell them what you're struggling with, somebody you trust. Tell them what you're struggling with and tell them what you're going to do that you know is right. And then ask them to pray for you and encourage you and keep you accountable to it. So you don't have to be in that situation like Joseph. You're not going to have to do that. Like I said, we may not be in the same situation as Joseph, but we know there's a lot of situations that we're going to be in. And the good thing is, we have God. We don't have to worry about the outcome. We don't have to think better, worse, applause, mocking, brave, amazing, smart, stupid. We just have to use integrity and base our decision on what is right. Because then we get to decide the kind of person we are. The person without regrets and the person that we can be proud of. And that is a choice that you always have when you choose to do the next right